Trump rails against what he calls fake news and is seen as being hostile to a large section of the media. And yet WikiLeaks is real news. WikiLeaks is the opposite of fake news. So if Trump really is against fake news, Trump should be in alignment with WikiLeaks, the real news. And yet he is not. He's simultaneously attacking the mainstream, but also attacking the truth tellers.
Suzie, you're being far too logical. Seriously, to apply a logical paradigm to what's going on in Washington, and particularly with respect to Mr. Trump, is not quite possible these days. Now, and this one's kind of easy. This is another bone thrown at the intelligence services. What happened was they were already tightening the screws on Julian. They were already beating on the Ecuadorians to hem him in even more. And when Vault 7 documents became released by Julian, well, there was one there that was so damning, so terribly damning, one that might have even suggested, if the readers of the New York Times were allowed to have the story, which they were not, which they have not been from then, the 31st of March, until 31st of March last year, okay, until today. They don't know about this cyber tool that the CIA manufactured, or I guess created, with the help of the NSA, of course, who are the real experts. And it allows an entity to hack in to a computer system, disguise who hacked in, and actually leave little telltale signs in 5 languages: Chinese, Persian, Arabic, Korean, and Russian, Cyrillic. Now, if somebody used a little bit of imagination, they might say, whoa, I wonder if it was that tool and not the Russians that was responsible for leaving these telltale signs behind when somebody made an entry into the computer system of the Democratic National Committee. Now, as I see it, and I don't have any inside information on this, but just as an analyst, okay, once you're an intelligence analyst, I suppose you're always one. It seemed to me that was so dangerous that the CIA and the NSA said, we have to stop this guy. And so what happens? Big Pompeo, the head of the CIA, trots out to one of these think tanks, and 13 days later, okay, March 31st, 13 days later, he says, Julian Assange is a demon. Now, I don't believe in demons, but some people do, especially people who really read the Bible literally. And of course, Pompeo is one of those guys. So he says he's a demon, and besides, he's running a non-state hostile intelligence service. Well, that's creating a new kind of entity in this world, but that's what he said. So what I see here is that Pompeo, in response to these guys that he was supposed to be managing, the guys in the CIA, the guys in John Brennan's computer hacking department, was saying that Julian can't do this anymore. And it was then, shortly thereafter, that the Ecuadorians were leaned all over to say, look, you have to make it really, really miserable for Julian Assange, make it even more miserable. And, it's really, really sad. I mean, that the American government can have that kind of influence on a country like Ecuador, which had Correa, a leader that was had a sense of what the press is supposed to do, and supported Julian. And the election comes, and this new fellow comes in and reverses all that. So it's a very sad story, but it's again illustrative of the power of these people. Now, these people. You don't have to say these people. You can say NSA, You could say CIA. You could say FBI. And my God, you could say the Department of Justice, DOJ. Okay. Now, I'm not speaking off the top of my head here. There's documentary evidence, and they didn't need Julian to release this. There's documentary evidence found by the Inspector General of the Department of Justice, who oversees the FBI as well, that these guys have a cabal that they tried to prevent Trump from becoming president, and once he was president, to prevent him from doing any of the promises that he made. And people say, well, do you want him to make the promises? You want him to make good on the promises? No way. I think he's the worst president the United States of America ever had. But even a broken clock is right. How many times? I think 2 times a day, right? Okay. Now, Trump happened to be right on Russia. There's no reason in God's earth where we have to have a very hostile relationship with Russia. So he's right on that. Okay. And of course, they want to prevent that. Why? Money. If there's less tension with Russia, well, that's very bad for the arms business. And, I don't like to quote the Pope very often because I disagree with him a lot. But he did have one thing right when he got before Congress and he said, the main problem is the blood-soaked arms trade. Whoa. And what did the congressmen do? They said, oh, yeah, right. And then they looked into their pocket to see if the latest envelope from Lockheed was there and the one from Raytheon over here. I mean, it was making hypocrisy. It was giving hypocrisy a bad name, okay? But he nailed it. That's what it was. And just to finish this thought, then the Pope is going to the Vatican. And I'm thinking, whoa, this would be great. Well, he stopped in Saudi Arabia on the way and concluded the world's most lucrative, the richest arms trade agreement ever with these guys with these sheikhs there in Saudi Arabia. Next stop, the Vatican. So McGovern is thinking, whoa, this is going to be great. Oh, this will be terrific. Because Francis is a good guy, right? And Francis will stand up and say, hey, remember what I said before Congress? You just get out of here. I don't want to see you anymore, right? Dream on, McGovern, dream on, my progressive friend said, wait a second, Ray. Did you see what Francis did, what Pope Francis did? I said, what do you mean? He didn't smile for the first 3 photo ops. Took a lot of guts. Give me a break. So that's a missing part of the thing that really haunts me because, when the Third Reich came to power, well, the whole story, how the evangelical Lutherans and the Catholics sort of try to make a deal with Hitler, and very few people could find their voice. And that's happening now because fascism is lapping at our door. And the people who you look to for some moral authority, they're acting like the tar baby and Uncle Remus, and they ain't saying nothing. They ain't saying nothing. So that's really hard to watch because there are people out there who would like to say things, but a lot of them turn out to end up in prison, like a lot of my friends.